By now, I'm sure you're sold on the serenity and beauty of night flying, and you know how to interpret all those lights you see on the ground and in the air. But what if you're on a night flight and you think you hear something unusual? Most likely, you're hearing the proverbial night noises. For some reason, it seems that for many pilots, their hearing gets much more sensitive at night, especially the further they are away from an airport. And they'll hear sounds for the first time at night, which they never even noticed during the day. But on the other hand, things can fail at night, and you have to be ready to deal with them just like you do during the daytime. Now, do engines fail at night? Yes, they do. Just as often as they do during the day, which is not that often at all. And they fail for the same reasons they do during the day. And most are pilot-induced by fuel starvation. So you can stack the odds in your favor with careful flight planning, a thorough pre-flight, accurate navigation, and good fuel management. But if your engine does quit at night, what do you do? Well, you do the same thing you do during the daytime, the ABCs. A is for airspeed. First pitch for your best glide speed. B is for best field. Now, this is where night is a little more of a challenge than the daytime. Turn towards an airport if there is one near. Remember the NRST feature of the GPS? Otherwise, turn away from heavily lighted, meaning congested, areas. An unlighted, open area is usually a better option than the buildings, poles, and wires of a congested, populated area. Now, in the open areas, you have a dilemma. Do you go for the big, beautiful highway with the lights, maybe a few cars on it, or do you go for the dark area? Unless you know the entire area like the back of your hand, you don't know what's in the dark area. Heck, that could be the ocean, or it could be mountains, rugged terrain, or it could be a beautiful, smooth wheat field. Well, the way you make this decision is to take your best guess about what's in the dark area. If you're sure it's a smooth wheat field, then by all means go for it. If, on the other hand, you don't know, it might be safer to go for that gorgeous lighted highway. Just be careful for overpasses, poles, and wires. Now back to the ABCs. C stands for cockpit checks, the same flow procedure you learned during the day. Now, when you make this landing, you want to avoid large objects on the ground. You use your landing light. Turn them on and see what you can see. And as the saying goes, if you don't like what you see, then turn them off again. Now, most important of all, as always, is to maintain positive control of the airplane all the way to the ground. Don't stall that aircraft. If you do this right and keep control of the airplane, you will join a large club, those who have done successful night forced landings. Now, losing your electrical system is more complicated at night than during the day. You rely on your lights and generally use more radios at night. If you know the charging system has failed, by seeing a volts annunciator light and the ammeter indicating a discharge, you know that the battery life left depends on how much it's being asked to power. So it's important to reduce the electrical load to the absolute essentials, especially remove the heavy users, the landing and taxi lights, and for goodness sakes, unplug that crock pot on the passenger seat right now. Also, turn off all unnecessary equipment and lights. Make only essential transmissions and keep them as short as possible. You may not know this, but transmitting takes a lot more power than receiving. If it's going to take more than a few minutes before you can land, you might want to turn everything off until you're a little bit closer. Turn toward the nearest lighted airport, and you want to land at the first one you can do so safely, because you don't know how long that battery will last. And keep in mind that if your battery is too low, you might not be able to turn on pilot-controlled lighting. So if possible, Choose an airport where the runway lights are always on. But what if the battery gives up and you lose everything electrical before you can get on the ground? Well, even if that happens, your Skyhawk's really important systems will keep running. You'll have all the engine power and flight controls, except for the flaps, that you've always had. And your pitot-static and vacuum gyro instruments will work fine. You'll just have to use your flashlight in order to see them. This is illuminated by a flashlight. Your biggest problem is that you can't tell anybody your intentions and no one else can see you. So when you join the traffic pattern, do so very carefully. Look out for everybody else because remember, you are invisible to them. And clear the runway quickly, taxiing carefully to the nearest lighted area. If the taxiways are too busy, you might consider shutting down and pushing your plane off the side of the runway. Then you can get someone's attention with your flashlight. As you know, night can be a great time to fly, but it offers challenges you don't have during the day. And if your night noises turn into real bumps in the night, now you have some tips on how to deal with them and fly at night with confidence.